Hello, everybody. My name is Leah, and I am the administrative assistant here at Africa Fire Mission. I just want to thank you all for coming today. Thank you so much just for joining us this week and every week. It's just so wonderful to have you all here, and thank you so much to our presenter today, Krista. Thank you so much for coming. She's presented for us in the past. She's amazing, and she has a really great presentation for PPE today. So I just want to thank you for showing up today and just being always so happy to present with us. It's always a pleasure to have you. And I do just want to inform everybody that our fire safety advocate, Jose, is not here today, sadly, but I believe Richard is standing in for him today. And so we're really happy to have Richard here with us as well. He's going to be hosting tea time afterwards. But I just want to remind everybody that this is a recorded session. And so after this, I'm going to be editing it and posting it on YouTube. So if you ever want to refresh yourself on what we learned here today, or if you missed the session in the past and you want to go watch that, please just always feel free to go and watch those YouTube videos or share them with your friends in the fire service that may not be able to access these live trainings. And I also want to remind everybody that I will be sending out certificates only for those who have stayed for 75 or 70% of the training, and that usually looks like 45 minutes of an hour-long session. And so I will be sending those out afterwards, and the name on your certificate will be your Zoom name that you have right now. So if the name that you're logged in with you do not want on your certificate, please change it. You can hover your mouse over your name and it'll give you the option to rename yourself. And so I will see the correct name you want on the certificate. That's really helpful for me when I'm making those. And also if you're watching in a group, please, you can either email me. I know some people email me, or you can chat me on Zoom right now and just let me know everyone that is watching in your group so that I can make those certificates for them as well. But right now, I just want to see Richard. I see that you're here. Do you mind unmuting and sharing the word of encouragement for the day?
Hi, hey everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Leah. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you, Richard?
I'm well, thank you.
All right, I'm just going to hand it over to you. Hopefully, I'm not putting you on the spot. Jose said that you were good to cover today.
Yeah, thank you. Jose called me yesterday and told me to set up for that because
Awesome.
he's doing something today.
Yes.
Yes, and the encouragement of the day today, we are going to get it from the 90 Days of Encouragement, number 2, book 2, which ignites your faith. Today being if we look at how the world is doing, and for example, in Kenya, we are having this, it's an election year, and or the month of election, and everything else in shaken. You look at the world, everything about Ukraine, Russia, and also depending with what we are facing through as firefighters or as the world. So today we are going to read the book of encouragement, page 20, and I'll read also Psalms 62, 2 verse 2 to 6, and it says, "He is only my rock and my salvation; He is my defense, and I shall not be gently moved." If you look at the story of King David, when he was fighting against so many other to invade people who are invading Israel, he went back to his nails and told God, "You are my rock. You are the only hope I have." It's like an anchor. He is the anchor of my life. So for each and every one of us, I would like us to have that. Let's focus on having the anchor on God, so that in everything that we do, it helps us. You look at the situation that we always go. If we don't respond to that fire that we are called, if we don't respond to that emergency or medical emergency we are called, or any the road traffic accident, we are called to go and extricate victims, to remove dangerous or hazardous material from the public. So the public, as the public try to see if they try to put their hope on us that we can be able to solve as much problems as possible with them. For us, we need to have a bigger lock. We need to have a bigger anchor. Like we can have somewhere we can be able to take our issues. We can have to have somewhere we can take the problems that I'm facing through, like the fire families or as personal issues, the family issues. This is where we always tell, let's learn to believe in this God, to have faith in this God. And by that, we are going to have faith even into ourselves as we try to work out and have a way in our offices. By that, I would like us to have make a prayer as we start this training session, and hopefully we'll have a smooth session, not like any other, but this would be the best. So let's bow our hands and pray. Thank you, our everlasting Father. We come before you this afternoon, God. It's another time that we have been able to merge. We are here to learn and improve our skills. We have learned today that you are the lock, you are the anchor of our life. Help us to understand these things that we are going to do. Help us to understand that the Bible was written to be able to give us guidance. And in the Jesus' name, that we start this meeting and it be at the beginning, then we do, and also the end of all this training. In the mighty name of Jesus, we do pray and believe.
Richard, you're cutting out just a little bit. It's getting a little hard to hear you.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, it's okay. Maybe you heard about the Bible reading?
Yes, heard that. I think it was just the last maybe 15 seconds that you cut out a little bit.
Oh, sorry for that.
You're perfectly fine.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ria.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing the word of encouragement today, and just it's always such a good refresher to hear about how important faith is. And so thank you so much for that. I really appreciate you, and I really just always appreciate hearing what you have to say. It's always really good stuff. So I just want to pass it off now to Krista as she shares and teaches us about PPE. So off to you, Krista.
Thank you, Leah. And thank you, Richard, for starting off my day. I know not all of you are just starting off your day, but it is morning here in Minnesota where I'm at. So thank you for starting our training today with those words of encouragement. So I will go ahead and share my screen. And we will go ahead and get our training started today here. Give me just one moment here. I'll just do a little bit of an introduction while I am working on doing that. So my name is Krista Nielsen, as you can all see. I am a full-time social work supervisor here. And then I also work as a paid on-call firefighter with a fire department here called West Metro Fire Rescue District. And what it means to be a paid on-call firefighter is I walk around with a pager for 12 hours per day, and I am expected to respond to calls that come to our station. And so when that pager goes off between the hours of 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., I'm expected to respond to 40% of the calls that that come out. And so we have a pretty high call volume. We actually have just had 3 pretty significant fires within the last week, one just yesterday. And so we keep pretty busy responding to both fires and medical calls here. And again, we are, I'm located in the state of Minnesota in the United States. And then we serve the cities of Crystal and New Hope. So it is nice to have you all with me today. And I'm excited to talk with you about PPE. I actually had, I'll move forward to the next slide here. I was telling Leah a little bit just before we started today that, you know, it's talking about the benefits of PPE. There's a lot of really great trainings that Africa Fire Mission does, things like fire behavior and vehicle extrication, and PPE seems like sometimes not as exciting as some of those other topics that they cover. And yet it's probably one of the most important pieces that we cover here. And so I'm really happy to be doing this today, because it really is one of the most important things that you all have, one of the most important tools that you all will hopefully be able to advocate for yourselves to get, so that you can serve your communities safely. I do know, because I have actually attended an Africa Fire Mission trip. I traveled to Nairobi in November 2021 and did a fire symposium. And so I had the fortune to meet maybe some of you at that fire symposium, but I was able to see a lot of the challenges that you all face when having to go into some of the fires that you fight. And I was able to see that many of you do not have the personal protective equipment that you need in order to be safe and to serve your communities well. And so my goals today in talking to you about PPE is to be able to kind of give you some background and some education about what are the components of personal protective equipment, or PPE is how we talk about it. I want to give you some really good background and knowledge about how each element of the, I'm sorry for the dog barking in the background. I want to be able to talk with you about how each piece of equipment works to protect you. I want to be sure to talk with you about the limitations of your PPE. It's important to understand not just how your PPE helps you, but also where your PPE can't help you. It's not going to make you a superhero. There are things that you're not able to do with your PPE, and it's important to know those things as well. We're going to talk a little bit about, regardless of, you know, whether you have each piece of your PPE, all of the different pieces of equipment, or whether you have just a few, that you're checking it on a regular basis and how to document that. We're going to talk about how to maintain it, and then we're going to talk about how to don and doff, which is to put it on and take it off appropriately. And we're going to do this so that you can, first of all, become really familiar with it, so that you know how to use it properly and use it well and keep yourself safe, so that first of all, you're safe and you can go home to your families in the evening, but also so that you can advocate for yourselves and advocate for your brigades, and you can go to the people in your community who have the ability to get PPE for you, because that is one key piece, is making sure that you're able to get the gear that you need in order to keep you safe. So though that is my goal today, so we will go in and kind of do a little bit of an introduction and talk about we'll go ahead and get started and talk about PPE. So a lot of times people will kind of separate the different components of PPE into the turnout gear that people wear, and so that will include the helmet, the gloves, hood, your coat and pants, which I know you all refer a little bit differently. And for some reason, I'm kind of blanking on those terms, so I apologize for that. But we in the United States call them coat and bunker pants, and then boots. And then also part of your PPE is the We call it self-contained breathing apparatus, and I know you all call that a BA or breathing apparatus. I know I've done a training in the past just specifically on the BA or the breathing apparatus, and so I would encourage you to look specifically at that as well. But today we're going to focus more on just the turnout gear. But it is important to be aware that the BA is also part of your personal protective equipment. So what does PPE do? It protects your body against a limited amount of heat. So again, it's not, it doesn't protect you from everything. It allows you to also enter a smoky and toxic environment, and that's what the SCBA allows you to do. Is it allows you to enter that smoky environment, and it provides that respiratory protection, again, for a limited amount of time. The SCBA will eventually no longer allow you to breathe the air, as it does eventually run out. It's compressed air, and eventually the BA will no longer protect you as well. So as I said, there are limitations of PPE, and this is important to know. Sometimes, especially people who haven't maybe had PPE, who suddenly have access to it, think, oh, I can go into any environment now. I can do anything I want now that I've got my full turnout gear. And that's not true. You could actually put yourself at risk if you are not aware of some of the limitations that your PPE have. So first of all, it's important that you as the firefighter are in good physical condition. So you have to be in good shape in order to maximize the work that can be done. So in your turnout gear, if you have not had an opportunity to put it on, it definitely adds additional weight. I believe it's at least about 30 pounds with just the turnout gear on. And so it's important that your body's used to carrying that additional weight. And if you are then wearing a BA, you are not going to be able to use that BA for as long of a period of time, because you're going to be breathing harder. Your body's going to have to work a lot harder in order to do the work that it needs to do to take care of the tasks. And so it's important to keep yourself in really good physical shape in order to maximize what you're able to do with the turnout gear. Agility. And so one of the things that people are often surprised about is that it's harder to kind of move around wearing the gear. So you might find that your arms feel restricted, or it's just harder to kind of turn around or move your torso or move your legs. You're just a little bit more restricted than you might be if you were just wearing your normal clothes. And so again, one of the most important things is, if you don't currently practice wearing your PPE a lot, or if you do get some PPE, that you're wearing it a lot, that you're practicing some of the things that you're doing. You're crawling around, you're moving around, you're moving heavy things, you're working with the hose, so that you're used to moving around, you're used to the way that it feels. Because if you are trying to do these things for the first time, when you're in a fire, when you're in a stressful situation, you're not going to be comfortable. It's going to be a lot more difficult to fight that fire and to be comfortable doing what you need to do. Another piece to be aware of is if you are wearing a mask. So you can see on this guy here who's got the barbell here, he's wearing a mask. If you do use a BA and you do wear a mask, it's important, first of all, to note that the mask has to be well-fitting. So if you're not trying that on and making sure that there's a good seal, you could potentially be allowing for the toxic gases and the smoke to be getting into the mask. People have to be mindful that men have to be mindful that they don't have beards or any sort of facial hair that would impact that, the face shield from creating a good seal. And so that's another important piece to consider, is that you are doing regular fit testing for your masks. Again, more limitations when using PPE. So again, there's medical limitations. So making sure that you are strong and physically fit. You also, it's important that you are in good cardiovascular shape. So again, not only being strong, but that you are, that you're doing things to take care of your cardiovascular health. So doing some physical conditioning types of work. And then also that your respiratory health is good. Another piece that's important to consider is kind of the mental limitations to using the gear. And this is, again, where it's important to do a lot of work in becoming comfortable using the gear. You shouldn't only put the gear on and work in the gear when there's an emergency. If those are the only times that you're comfortable, or that you are putting on the gear, you're not going to be comfortable in those times. And so it would be doing things like here in the United States, one common drill that we do, it's called a 2-minute drill. And what that means is we are required to don, which is to put on, all of our gear, including our BA, within 2 minutes. So we start off with our boots, pants, coat, helmet, all that stuff in front of us. We have our regular boots, so our work, or just walking around, shoes, whatever. And then somebody says, go. And then they start a timer, and we all work on getting all of our gear on within 2 minutes. And so again, it's boots, pants, coat, helmet, mask, BA. BA has to be turned on. We're connected to air. We've got our gloves on. We are ready to go into that fire. And we do that within 2 minutes. Another drill that we do, and I'm not sure actually how popular it is, but we actually call it a 3-minute drill here. And what we do is we don our gear. So 2 minutes. So put on everything. And then we actually doff our gear. So fully remove it. We don't turn our BA off, but then we put it back on. And the goal is to try to get all of that done within 3 minutes. And again, this is something that we do over and over and over and over and over again. And the goal in doing that is, again, becoming really, really comfortable in how our gear fits, how all of the buttons work, all of the Velcro, being really, really familiar with all of the different components of our equipment, because we know here that having that really kind of intimate familiarity with our equipment and our turnout gear is so important. That's one of the many drills that we do to become comfortable in our equipment. But essentially, we do a lot of training. The department that I'm in, we do a significant amount of training. We're actually really well known. I'm fortunate enough to be part of a department that's known for doing a lot of training. We almost always train in our turnout gear because we know how important it is to be comfortable and to be familiar with our gear. So again, your turnout gear and your SCBA have limitations. If you use a BA and use a mask, you know that your vision is obstructed. So your mask does this, so you're not able to kind of use your periphery vision. You're not able to see from the side, so you have to turn your head more, not able to see what's on either side of you. Excuse me. Again, with the BA, it's harder to hear. And then over time, and then as you go into more and more fires, your gear will not become as effective. And so the more that it's used, the less it will protect you from fires. So that is important as well, is to consider how much use it's had when you think about how long can I be in this environment. If you look at the type of fire you're going to go into, if it is a really significant fire and you have gear that maybe was donated by a different department, maybe it has been used for quite a while, and now you have a significant fire and you're going to go use it, you might want to consider that even though you have PPE, it still has been exposed and in a lot of fires, and so you might not be able to use it for as long as someone who used it when it was brand new. Heat transfer from high temp to low temp. So it's going to go first to your gear, then to you. So you may have noticed, if you've ever seen people come out of a fire in their gear, you might even notice that their gear is like steaming or smoking. That is protecting, of course, you from that fire, but eventually that heat is going to get to you. It does transfer to you. And if you look below here, you can see the temperature range that you have in terms of being protected from the amount of time you have in these different temperature ranges to be protected. So if it's 140 to 572 degrees, I believe this is Fahrenheit, so I apologize. I think that I believe that I did not convert this to Celsius, but I am going to do that before we save this, so that when you go back in to download this, because I know you will, you'll have this in Celsius, but that will give you 10 to 20 minutes of protection. Up to 572 degrees Fahrenheit, 15 to 30 seconds of protection. So again, at flashover, there's no protection. It doesn't matter what type of PPE you're wearing, you're not going to be protected from fire. So again, PPE is essential to a firefighter's safety. This is something that if you're going to be better able to serve your community, you're going to be able to be safe yourself, you're going to be able to go home to your family much more likely if you have effective PPE. It's important that that PPE provides full body coverage and protection from a variety of hazards. And then it's important that you are maintaining it properly, and not only maintaining it, but inspecting it on a regular basis to make sure that that there aren't any potential issues that that could expose you. So again, the equipment the PPE that you receive allows you to work in areas with high temperatures and toxic gases, and it is designed to be worn with SCBA, provides that thermal protection, so it protects you from heat. Also, PPE will repel water. PPE also provides impact protection. So again, the helmets, the boots will protect you. So if there's a ceiling collapse, that can protect your head, your feet from being impacted by that. Also the boots, gloves, again, the helmet and also the boots and the coat and the pants will protect you if you're, for example, in an environment where there's a lot of things that might cut you. Many of the pants have like knee padding and things like that, so it protects your knees. And then of course the SCBA provides that respiratory protection. So talking specifically about the helmet, it has to meet that NFPA 1971 standard. Again, provides impact protection if there's a ceiling collapse or other falling objects. Many times these tetrahedrons are color coded so you can see the firefighter's rank. And then oftentimes these will have PAR tags. And so what that is it's a little name tag. So for our department, we have a little piece of Velcro on the back and it's got our name tag on it. And then an officer on our shift will have a little board, and then everybody hands our Velcro name tags to them. And that way that officer can hand what they call our PAR board with our PAR tags on it. And then everybody knows, okay, this is engine 32. Engine 32 has Krista Nielsen and these 3 other firefighters on it. And engine 32 is doing search and rescue. And that is a way for them to keep track of where the firefighters are. So this is a way when we go into to any fire, I just reach around and back. Our PAR tags are right kind of in the back here. Reach around back, grab my PAR tag, and I hand it to the officer. So that's how we do it. Many departments will do the PAR system differently, but that's how our department does it. But that's just a little overview of the helmet and the protection that this provides. The protective hood, this covers the exposed skin. So as you can see, that goes over the face, and that covers any exposed skin in the head and neck area. This is constructed of flame-resistant materials, worn over the face piece, but then under the helmet. And this is a piece of equipment that must be washed after every exposure to, all of the equipment must be washed after every exposure to fire, but this is something that that we are very mindful after every potential exposure. We make sure, because the area specifically around the head and the neck is so sensitive to cancer-causing particles, that we are very mindful of changing our hood every single time we are in a potential environment that could expose us to any cancer-causing materials. So the turnout coat, you can see here on this picture that is on the left, that they've kind of peeled it back a little bit so you can see the 3 layers. There's a protective outer shell, the moisture barrier, so that prevents you from getting steam burns when you're in a very hot environment. And then of course the thermal barrier as well. And then that flap provides that secure double seal. As you can see, there's a little kind of elbow padding there to protect you. And then there are the bright, blanking on the term right now, but an attempt to kind of make you visible if you're in a very dark environment, which, if you've ever been in a very smoky room, not always very effective, but sometimes it can be helpful at being able to see other firefighters. So that is the turnout coat. Bunker pants, typically they match, but sometimes if you're working with donated gear, you get what you get, and that's okay. If they don't match, they don't match. Has the same 3-layer protective system. It's important that these are large enough, so you don't want them to be super tight, but you also don't want them to be so loose that that they're falling off, or you're having to like pull them up when you're moving around on a scene. You also don't want them to be super long, so you can see in the picture on the left that it kind of goes above the heels. So you obviously don't want to expose any part of your leg, but you also don't want it to be dragging, because that could be a tripping hazard. Boots, they need to be constructed of rubber leather. They need to meet NFPA 1971 requirements. That NFPA is the standard for turnout gear. The outer layer repels water, and then of course they need to be flame and cut resistant. And then that inner liner adds the thermal protection, so that again, your feet are protected from the heat that you'll experience in a fire. Gloves, of course, these are very important. You need these. You need your hands to to navigate a hose line, to cut through drywall. You need your hands to work in a fire. So the gloves protect you from the heat, liquid cuts. So it's important to have really thick firefighting gloves. So not just any gloves will do. It's important to have these specific fire gloves. You'll notice that these have the wristlets, so they kind of come up above, kind of come about to here. And then they're usually constructed of heat-resistant leather. So again, I keep talking about the limitations of the structural firefighting ensemble. And this is, again, important. It's important to know how this keeps you safe. You need to know so that you can advocate for yourself, but it's also important to know where it's not going to protect you so that you know when you need to get out and when it's not safe for you to go into an environment, even with your PPE. So again, requires energy and strength. It's important for you to be strong. It's important for you to take care of your physical health. Another thing to know is that you get really hot wearing this equipment. I'm in the state of Minnesota. It's really hot here right now because it's summer here in Minnesota. But in the wintertime, it gets very, very, very cold here in Minnesota. But right now, if we go out in this equipment, we get very hot, and then wearing this gear makes us very, very warm. So it's important that you're aware that of the impact of that, because that's going to, you're going to get a lot warmer than you would normally. And again, it limits your mobility and your range of motion. And then again, your sensory, so you're not going to be able to see as much. Your hearing is going to be decreased. You're not obviously going to be able to feel as much because your sense of touch is going to be impacted. So when to wear PPE? What are some indications that you need to wear PPE on a call? So this is where I am going to take about 5 minutes and open it up to people on this call to see what are some times when you start to think, okay, I should probably put on my turnout gear. And you can put something in the chat. You can unmute yourself. Let us know when you feel like you've gotten a sense that it's time to put on your turnout gear. Or you can raise your hand.
Do not be shy. Anyone can unmute and share their opinions, whatever they think. I know someone's just dying to talk right now.
Someone just said we normally don our gear before we turn out to a call. Yeah. And Yuban, just a question. Is it every single call that you go on that you don your gear? Or are there times when you don't put on your gear? Every single call. Okay, that's good to know. My department, because we respond to both fire calls and medical calls, we do not don our PPE for most of our medical calls. However, we always bring our PPE with for our medical calls. We're required to bring our PPE is really anytime we are responding to anything for the fire department. Anything that is that could potentially lead to fire, or anything where we would need to be using our PPE, we would don our gear. And then Cyrus asks a question, how long are the fire gear being used at the fire service before being outdated? That's a really good question. And one of the things to consider is, and I had brought it up earlier, but you have to really look at, and it's more important than an expiration date. So what you'll see is that a lot of the gear will have a tag on it, and they will show like an expiration date. But you have to think about how often has that gear been worn. So you might have some people who have gear and maybe they don't go into a lot of fires for some reason. Maybe they work a shift where they just don't respond to a lot of fires, or maybe they are an officer that does more pumping, and so they do more exterior work as opposed to going interior. So their gear is not going to be exposed to much. You might have other people who experience a lot of fires, and their gear is going to be outdated a lot sooner. Another thing that's important, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, is doing gear inspections. And so if you're doing a gear inspection and you notice that there is like a hole, then your gear is going to be outdated much sooner. So, and then Simpson says every emergency response is good to wear PPE because you may not know what to encounter on the ground. And that is so important, Simpson. Thank you for sharing that. And that was actually what I was going to essentially say, is that we, as I said, because we respond to medicals, if we, for example, are attending a CPR, we might not wear our PPE, but we might get a call for, a smoke alarm, and we've been to an alarm 4 nights a week there for the last month. And we might go, oh, here we go again. They burned food again. And it's easy to just say, well, we don't need to wear our gear. We know that this is nothing. But it could be that one time when you're not wearing your gear that it actually is a big fire. And now you have to take 2 minutes to put on your gear. And that's 2 minutes that people are having to wait to be rescued, or it's 2 minutes for fire to grow and you're not able to get in and stop the fire. And if you've seen how quickly fire grows, you know that that is a long time for that fire to get bigger. So that is an excellent point. I think I saw somebody raising their hand. Leah, are you?
Yeah, Francis. It looks like he's unmuting himself. Feel free to speak up and say whatever you're going to say, Francis. If your audio is not working, you can also type it in the chat.
We're not hearing you, Francis.
All right. Adelina, I also saw your hand pop up a few times. I don't know if you want to add anything. Feel free. If you still want to make a comment, you can unmute as well.
Good afternoon, Christy and Leah. How are you guys?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm alright. Yeah, hey, it's a important topic on the PPE. I like it. And yeah, on the other side, the time that we're supposed to wear the PPE in any call, in the rescue call or fire call, that we need to put on PPE because it's important. Any small call that comes in, you never know that it's gonna get big or what. So it's important to wear PPE, especially when there is a fire call. Your SCBA must be worn at any time.
Yeah, that's really important, just how important it is to wear the PPE all the time. So thank you. But Cyrus also has another question in the chat. He says, does the gear itself have any harm to the user?
The gear itself does not that I know of. I don't believe that the gear itself has any harm to the user. It's only if the user does not have knowledge to use it properly.
Awesome.
So that's a good question. Thank you. So we're going to talk about care of PPE. And so I will go into that next. And I would encourage you, when you go back to your brigade, to talk about what are you doing to take care of your PPE. Kind of to go back to your question, Cyrus, about does the PPE cause harm? It does not cause harm, but if the user does not know how to use it, or if the user is not properly caring for the PPE, then it could potentially cause harm, because the user might not know that something is wrong with it, or the gear could, for example, if you're not properly washing it after an exposure, you could be carrying around carcinogens, and then as you're wearing it, you could be exposing yourself to the carcinogens. And so I would encourage you, when you go back, to talk to people in your brigade about what are we doing to care for our PPE, and do we need to do better? So I would encourage you to have that conversation with people. So I would encourage you to check the condition of your PPE regularly. So first of all, post-exposure. So if you go into a fire, every time you are going into a building, make sure, and there is a pretty significant work that you're doing to manage a fire, make sure you're inspecting your gear. So remove the liners, make sure you're checking the interior and exterior liner for holes, for rips, for tears. Sometimes you might find like nails. So every single time that you are doing a lot of work in a fire, you should be taking it all apart and inspecting it. If you go for longer periods of time without going into a fire, you should be inspecting it monthly. Sometimes you might just wear it on a call and not really realize that you got a hole in it somehow. And so after each exposure and once a month, you should be doing a gear check. If there is damaged PPE, it should be repaired as soon as possible. And so that's another thing to think about, is how do you repair it? What do you do? And if you don't know, that is a really good question to ask. That would be a question, if you are an officer, to start thinking about, how do we learn how to do this? Who do we contact? How do we learn how to fix it? What are our resources? How do we start advocating for funds so that we can get these fixed? I've provided you with the benefits of PPE. And so this is great knowledge that you can bring back and talk to your chiefs and talk to the people in your community who make laws and who can get you money to be able to fix these, so that you can explain to them how you having properly working PPE can help your community and help you. So then making sure that you clean your PPE when necessary. So badly soiled by exposure. So if there's a hazmat incident, make sure that you are washing yourself off. Or if you're exposed to, of course, if you're exposed in a fire, so you can use some specific decontamination chemicals, or you can just use some dish soap and water. So kind of use what you have. Even if it's just water and a scrubbing brush, that's fine. So doing something to try to clean yourself off is better than doing nothing. So again, just making sure that you're washing, inspecting, and then make sure that you document that you're inspecting too. So, and making sure that each firefighter is tracking how often they're doing it. And making sure, if you are an officer, that that's something that you're having the people below you do on a regular basis. After exposure, so after you've been in a fire, we have a saying here: shower within the hour. So that's you, but also the gear, of course. So within an hour of being in a fire, you want to clean your gear, but then you also want to clean yourself. So make sure you concentrate on scrubbing your neck, your abdominal and upper leg areas. Those are areas that the carcinogens tend to concentrate in. So make sure you clean those, but then also, like I said, make sure, for example, that hood, that is something that we always make sure that we wash thoroughly and we change out. And again, removing your PPE, so get that taken off right away. So as soon as we are done with the scene, as soon as we've done all of our overhaul, we get everything cleaned off, we get all of our gear off, and we actually try to take our gear back in a different vehicle. So we have like a truck and we throw all of our gear in the back of a truck. So we're not bringing it back in a truck with us. We decontaminate it outside so that we're, again, trying to keep all of that gear as far away from us as possible until it gets cleaned off. So I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion with you all about how many of your brigades use PPE during firefighting operations. What pieces of PPE are firefighters in your brigade issued? And then are there pieces that your brigade does not have? So I wanted to kind of get a better sense of what we got here. Again, like I said, I went to Nairobi about 6 months ago. So I'm aware that some brigades have everything. I know that even though some of you have BAs, you maybe don't have compressors that are working. And so that I know is a challenge. And I know that some of you don't have much. So just kind of want to get a little bit of an idea of what you guys have here. And again, you can raise your hand. You can unmute. I see Adelino has unmuted.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I just wanted to emphasize something on the PPE, especially the bunker gear. Some of the departments they purchase the bunker gear, but they don't check the tags that are on there, because some of the tags, if there is a tag that states NFPA 1971, it means it's already protected or checked by NFPA. So it must have all those rules, how to wash them, instructions how to wash them and how to clean them. The moment that those bunker gears, they don't have the tag that gives you instruction of how to clean them or how to maintain them, then it's invalid, because it's never going to protect you in a long period. Because most of the PPE, they stay about 5 years after being exposed. So on the other side, as we go forward, in my department, we've got everything. We've got SCBA's, just that we are left in short with is the compressor. Since our compressor went away and then nobody is doing anything. But now, the other thing is, the most important thing is to check the cylinders hydrostatic testing. They are outdated. The moment the cylinder is outdated, is hydrostatic outdated, is not tested after 5 years, then those chemicals that are in the bottle, in the cylinder, no matter it's full, they can end up harming you as a firefighter. So that's what we must check on in most of the cases in the PPE, according to in the SCBA.
Yep, that's right. Thank you. And so did you say, and I couldn't quite hear you, but did you say that you do clean your equipment at the scene? Is that what I heard you say?
No, we don't clean our equipment, our PPE on the scene. Just
Okay.
the fact that the moment we're coming from the scene.
Oh, the moment you come in. Okay.
Eventually, there's a call on the way, on the route to the station. So
Okay.
the time
Yeah.
between the PPE is unlimited. Is limited. Yeah. So
Right.
we don't do that.
Yeah.
So in most
Yeah.
of the cases, when I'm weekend off, then I wash, especially like at the station, then I wash my clothes, my PPE, because I've got one set. So
Right.
in that one set, cannot wash it while you're on duty, and then it's wet. So uh it's confusing mostly because you don't know when the call comes in. So when I go off, then I wash it.
Yep.
All right.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I do see a question in the chat. Can one use foam for washing fire protective gears? And foam is not soap. So again, something is better than nothing. I would suggest that you save your foam and instead just use water. So I would not suggest using foam. The use of firefighter wipes are great. If you have the use of those, I would definitely encourage you to do that. A well-done firefighter is more confident and courageous during calls. Absolutely. You can do a lot more work with um, with a firefighter who has protective gear. And I would suggest a firefighter who is confident in their gear because they've had a lot of practice. Absolutely. And then Alex says we don't have much because we have only one pair of tunic, leggings, and boots, but the boots are very heavy. Yes, they are definitely very heavy. And that actually brings up a really good point, Alex, and something that I really wanted to talk with you all about before we go, and something that I hope you can talk about maybe during tea time, as well as what can you do to advocate for your department. And this is really important because, again, I know a lot of you don't have all of the PPE that you need. So what can you do to try to get that PPE? So some of the pieces that I've written down here is talk to your government leaders. So if you are an officer, or if you are somebody who is an officer or a chief, and even if you're not, if you are a firefighter, I would still encourage you to get out and talk to your government leaders. I've got some information in this slide. There's a lot of information that's out there to give you education and tell them about how you can help your community, how you can help actually save the community money. If you have the firefighting equipment that you need, you can help save buildings, you can help save lives if you have the right equipment. So who are your government leaders? Do you know who they are? If you don't know, how do you find out? So that would be one of the first questions I would ask. And then once you find out, help your leaders understand why it's important for each firefighter to have a set of PPE. So again, make sure that you understand the information that I've included in this slide, and try to learn even more than what I've included in this slide, so that you can explain to them why this is important, why this will help the community, why this will help them as a government leader, and not just the PPE, but the BAs as well. And then the other equipment that will help the BAs work. So like the compressors, how all that will help the community. Explain to them how it'll keep you safe, how it'll help you save lives. Try to learn how much does the equipment cost? How much does a set of PPE cost? How much does a BA cost? How much will it cost for every single firefighter in your brigade to have a set of PPE and a BA and a working compressor? And then explain to them how much it will save them in terms of saving lives, helping the community, so that they can understand why this is important. So that's something that I hope that you can talk a little bit about today, maybe during tea time. I hope these are some questions you can bring back to your brigade and talk about how you can try to get some support for yourself. So that is the end of my presentation. I know we are at time now. There's a couple more comments in the chat about kind of cleaning the PPE. I had mentioned at one point that if you don't have specific decontamination equipment, dish soap can be used. That would be my best recommendation, is like a Dawn dish soap. That might be something that you could try. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you, everyone. Asante sana.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Krista, for that wonderful presentation. And as you can see in the comments, it definitely brought up a lot of practical questions that I'm sure are going to be talked about in tea time. Like Krista said, we ended perfect timing, right at that 1 hour mark. And so we don't have a lot of time at the moment to continue asking questions. And Krista is not going to join for tea time, which is totally fine. We are very, very thankful that she was able to come and present today. But I know that Richard is going to host tea time for us, which is amazing. And I'm very appreciative of that. And so I know that I'm sure a lot of these questions or comments that we have left kind of in the chat that you guys can kind of feed off each other, give each other advice, what each station uses and what each brigade uses for their cleaning supplies, or if you guys have any tips or tricks to pass on and what your guys' policies are. You guys can kind of talk about that in the beginning and just let the conversation go from there. So thank you so much to everyone just for being so interactive today as well. I just want to remind you guys that at the end of this training, I will be sending out certificates later in the day. If you reach that 70% or 45 minutes of the training, you'll be getting one. It's not too late to change your name. If you do not want the name on your certificate to be the name you're currently using right now on Zoom, please rename yourself and I'll be able to see that in our records, and I will be able to change it on your certificate. And I also just want to remind everybody that next week we will also be having another training. It'll be a good one. You don't want to miss it. So just follow the same registration link that you used this week to get to this training, to get to next week's training. And I always invite you guys to share that link with anyone else that is in the fire service, or just active community members that might be interested in the fire service. These trainings are really for everybody. And so I do invite you to share those as well. And with that being said, I just want to thank you all for coming one last time. And I hope that you guys all have a wonderful week. But